I'm out in the new orchard expansion area that I've been documenting this whole winter, and I thought it would be nice for the folks that have been following along for me to make sure that I document this kind of like a little bit of a groundbreaking or a new phase to this whole project. Today the ground has thawed out just enough. I'm always pushing the edge here, just enough for me to get into the soil and start working it. So I'm walking through and doing some very rough sketches of where I think I'd like to be planting some trees. Truth be told, this is how I design, with a shovel, not a pen and paper. For better or worse, I'm not recommending it necessarily, but I'm just being honest. And so, I'm in here thinking about like what my flow and access patterns are and like how I'd want to move through the space, and kind of thinking about what trees I have that can find homes, and maybe I'd like to see a hazelnut here, maybe I'd like to see an oak here. And so I'm just doing those rough sketches. And in the process of sketching out a few light holes that I'm thinking about, I thought through, well, here's a hugel mound that is going to be permanent infrastructure insofar as I'm not going to be walking through there. That's permanent garden for sure, so that frames the space. This is already a mowed pathway, so that's permanent pathway. And so I thought, well, now that I'm in this interior space, which is in some ways a blank slate, let me start sketching out some minor gardens in between the trees. So I consider the trees, major keystone elements, but I want to fill the whole space. And so what I did is just took my shovel and loosened up and dug out most of the weeds from this one band that provides me a 3-foot walkway. And I thought, well, what would be beautiful in here? You got the tree and shrub layers starting to happen. What if I did a couple lines running north-south of some minor fruits? So this first one in here is going to be Menage Meru blackcurrant, and I just went over to my thicket where those are growing near some waterways, and I pruned some branches that help the overall plants anyway, and these strike roots from cuttings insanely well. So that's all there is to it, is to simply take these cuttings, I'll prep a few, and I'll stick them in the soft soil. They will root and grow here, and that's the minor shrub layer, and so I still need an herbaceous ground cover layer. And so I went into the garden, and this is the beauty of being a nursery, is I have unlimited, lots of plants all over the place. And so I just dug from one area where there are intensity alpine strawberry, very vigorous, low creeping ground cover, and some mosh, which is an annual but does a great job of covering the soil early in the season. And I noticed there were a couple Cronses, I don't even know how to say them, mint root, that were frost heaved into the walkway. And they still have good turgor and feel to them, so they're going to get planted in here as well, under the shade of the Menage Meru. So it's the first little mini polyculture going in, pretty much improv style. But I loosened up the soil, I'll stick the cuttings, put the cultivar strawberries around to be able to creep and walk themselves into the pathways, because otherwise it's just going to become weeds that come into here. So I really need to plant all these out. So let me shush up for a moment and actually start getting some things in the ground. So I'm standing just to the north of this little planting, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think 8 or 9 Menage Meru cuttings from 2 little pruned branches. They're little right now, but they'll grow. The north end is the mint root that I planted deep in, or down into the soil around this last Menage Meru. It's a very shade-tolerant herbaceous plant, so I put it on the north end of things, and I figure it should be on its own. And then spotted all throughout, I put little wads of mosh. Again, that's an annual, but really good persistent annual that has been coexisting with my alpine strawberry for years, so I thought they should come together. And the alpine strawberries is dotted back and forth all throughout, with the idea that that'll get to be the dominant ground cover underneath the Menage Meru and apply pressure out into the walkways. And we'll see. It was a very rough sketch, very quick, 10 minutes in total, all from plant material I copied from this site, so no big deal. All with a simple aluminum tag, so I can actually remember what happened. It says Menage Meru and Alpine 18, because it's 2018. And now that same pattern can playfully be repeated throughout. So maybe I'll do Crusader blackcurrant with anise hyssop underneath. Or, Yastaberry with some sort of peppermint. You get the idea. It's playful and it's light because the ramifications are that I have more useful, hardy, valuable perennial plants than I know what to do with if I have to erase these patches later on. And what this was just a thicket of shrubby woods. Anyway, so the stakes feel pretty low. Just a playful place to begin. I'm going to focus some energy more though on going through and pre-flighting some holes, just a rough sketch placement of where the higher value trees go. I won't just slap a tree in arbitrarily into the landscape. I want to think through those relationships more thoroughly since they're longer lived. But the early succession herbaceous and small minor shrub layer, I feel like I can play and enjoy. So raspberries and thornless blackberries, yastas and gooseberries and all sorts of herbaceous companions can start getting striped into this landscape on a whim. Why not? It's fun to be on a whim. Anyway, there's where the orchard is for now, and I'll just keep documenting as we evolve this space.